One thing I'm really good at is making bad decisions. I'm going to give you an example. Now, everybody, it's gotten very sensitive. Everybody's very sensitive now. The comedic climate, everything's very sensitive. People send emails. I get offended. I get offended. Everybody gets offended. An email gets sent. Your career's leaking in the gutter. So, but years ago, it used to not be like that. I look, my sense of humor, I do alienate. I've lost a few friends. But like I had one friend recently, he's not my friend anymore, but he came over, he was hungry, so I make him a sandwich, I bring it out, he's like, I can't eat that. I said, well, why not? He goes, because I have a gluten allergy. I'm like, well, what are the symptoms of that exactly? He says, well, first you feel full, and then you feel tired. I'm like, well, that's exactly what's supposed to happen when you eat bread. You're not supposed to be famished and then alert. Anyway, but here's my point. So, years ago, I don't feel like it used to be like that. Like when I was doing comedy in the city years ago, you could say whatever you wanted, If somebody gets offended, they leave, But I remember there was a period of time I got sick of doing my act. I wanted to do something on purpose that was offensive as it could be and just see what happened. So I started doing this character on stage, and people believed it was real. It was this angry Middle Eastern comic called the Great Habibi, right? And I came out, my opening joke was, I hate juice. Orange juice, apple juice, grapefruit juice. And people love the Great Habibi, right? People love the Great Habibi, right? I did an album as the Great Habibi. I sold one copy, to a guy who lived in the Middle East, ironically enough. Some guy in the Middle East bought the one copy, right? So the way I would do I committed, like I grew a beard, I did the whole, I took less frequent showers, I put on extra cologne, I did the whole thing. I called strangers my friend. And the album cover was hilarious. It was a picture of me, like, on a flying carpet. It was so offensive. Smoking a hookah with a camel, throwing rocks at Americans, Anyway. And the way I would try the material, there was a deli in my neighborhood, and it was two guys from Yemen, Muhammad. And I love these guys. And I would run the material by them. I'd be like, I hate Jews. They'd be like, hilarious. This is hilarious already. What a coincidence. So do we. And one of the Mohammeds, I forget which one, he was a big Mr. T fan. He loved Mr. T. He had Mr. T bobblehead, Mr. T posters from the A-Team. Like, he had this whole Mr. T obsession. I remember asking him one day, I was like, what is the obsession with Mr. T? And he goes to me, Mr. T, he is big and black. I'm small and brown. Inside, I am him. Inside, he is me. We had this, it was a beautiful little moment. It resonated. Maybe he had to be there. I got a tear, everything. So during this time, there was another Middle Eastern comic working in New York City that really was from there and did a whole act about it. And, and his closing joke was he would rip open his shirt and he had fake dynamite strapped to his chest. And people would be like, ha ha, and then leave, It was a different time. So 9/11 happened, so he stops working. I think he went into banking or something. And, I dial back to Great Habibi a little bit, but I'm still doing it. So it was a few months later, I get a call from some producer in Los Angeles. And he's like, listen, we hear you do this Great Habibi thing. We're casting a show. It's a cop show with a Middle Eastern guy, and we think you'd be perfect. We want you to fly yourself out. And that's always a good sign when somebody says that. No. Fly yourself out to Los Angeles for this meeting and everything. Everybody's gonna be there. It's gonna be perfect. We're gonna cast you in this thing. So I'm like, okay. So I have 2 days to get this all together. Money's a little tight. So I have a friend named Tony Woods, hilarious comedian. And Tony has a hookup at an airline, right? So I'm like, Tony, you got that hookup at the airline? He's like, yeah, shorty. And I'm like, what's the guy's name? He's like, his name is Horse. I'm like, Horse? Why is he called Horse? He's like, man, you don't want to know. So I meet this guy Horse in the back of a bar. He comes limping in, I'm trying not to look at his leg, And Horse, he's like, I give him $200 cash. He's like, here, take this number, use it on the way over. Take this other number, use it on the way back. So I'm like, okay, right. But it seems a little seems a little dodgy, right? I'm like, all right, Next day I fly out, use the number, it's fine. The producer picks me up at the airport. He's like, listen, we're going directly to the meeting. He goes, I want you, these people believe that you're actually the great Habibi, so I need you to be that guy in the meeting. So be offensive and everything. I'm like, okay, no problem, right? So we get to this building, right? It's this agency, whatever, and all the agents are sitting at this table, everybody's sitting around. It's a big deal and everything. I'm sitting there, and this one lady is the shot caller. She's the shot caller, right? She starts grilling me, asking me questions. She's like, so, Habibi, what country are you from exactly? I'm like, you know where is Egypt? She's like, yes. I'm like, not there. It's to the left. It's called Mekhneh. It's a small, it's a small place, 1/10, Open sesame, and then you go in. So everybody's laughing at the table except for this lady. So she keeps asking me more questions. She's like, so are you married? I'm like, yes, I have 7 wives, one for each day of the week. Tuesday is my favorite. I drill her like oil field, fracking all night, fracking in the butt. Right? Everybody's laughing at the table. This lady not laughing. She goes, do you have children? Yes, I have my daughter. She was born in the desert, Sandy. My other daughter, she's a little overweight, Fatima. And my son, I call him my little chickpea, but when he misbehaves, I beat him with his stick, and then I call him hummus, Everybody's laughing at this table. This lady not laughing. So she's like, do you have any friends from the old country? I'm like, yes, I have one friend, but they caught him shoplifting and they chop his hand. She goes, so what happened? I'm like, he lost touch, right? I'm killing at this table. This lady's not laughing, right? So she's like, let me switch gears a minute. Now, one of the concerns here is language. One of the concerns is language. If there's going to be a language barrier, are there phrases that are different, like your language and culturally with our language? And I was like, yes, like the phrase camel toe. In my country, it's not insult, it's compliment. It means your vagina have the strength of 1,000 camels. Right? She's like, so what would an insult be? Pita bread pussy. This means your vagina is dry like the desert, but there is a secret pocket with lot of ingredients that you only discover when you give a big taste to it. Like an oasis, pita bread pussy. I'm killing at this table. No one's laughing. This lady's not laughing, right? Right then, a guy comes over. He's like, would you like coffee? Would you like water? Would you like juice? I'm like, I told you, I hate juice, right? So while this is going on, I see in the back of the agency all these younger agents. They're going to this back room in a mass, and I'm like, well, what is going on there? And the people tell me it's tea time. I'm like, what does mean tea time? And they're like, we represent Mr. T. He comes here once a month. His career's been a little rocky, so he comes here. It's kind of like a pep talk thing. We have all these new agents. We have these posters here of things he's done, and he signs the posters for the new agents, and it makes him feel better. And so they're like, as a matter of fact, since you're here, would you mind getting a poster signed? Because you're a new face. I'm like, no problem. So I stand in line. It's surreal. Mr. T doesn't look good. Like, there's a piece of the mohawk missing. He looks like lowercase t or something. And it's so surreal. I mean, he's sitting there. And he's signing these posters, and he's giving people 80s advice. He's like, stay in school, don't be a fool. Right? They're like, thanks, T. Thanks a lot, T. He's like, when you get rich, buy your mama a house. Thanks, T. He gets to me, he takes one look at me, he's like, what are you, some kind of terrorist? And I was like, no, we like to say conscientious detonator. He's like, you crazy. He's like, what's your name? I was like, put it to Muhammad. So he writes, Muhammad, don't blow shit up. You can't make this up, right? I'm like, this is the best thing ever, So I got a poster that says, Muhammad, don't blow shit up. I'm like, wait till Muhammad sees this, or Muhammad, either one. So the next day, I go to the airport. I got my number. I check in, Delta Airlines or whatever. The lady's like, 437821. She's like, that's strange. I don't seem to have a reservation for that number. I'm like, 1 second, let me just contact my travel agent. I'm like, horse? He's like, try 78537. I'm like, 78537? She's like, 78? She's like, there isn't a number? No, 78537? And he's like, 23856. So I'm like, 23856. The lady's like, 23. And she's like, oh, wait a minute, sir, wait a minute. We can't take any more credit cards from you, or no, this has been purchased on a stolen credit card. Who's that on the phone? I'm like, horse, click. So she's like, you're going to have to pay cash for this ticket. So I'm like, great. So I got to go get cash. I pay for the ticket. It's a nightmare. So I'm waiting for the plane to board, right? And my name is DC Benny, right? That is a stage name. My real name is Ben Wertofsky. Nobody knows that shit. There's an announcement from Delta Airlines as they're pre-board. They're like, well, Ben Wertofsky, please report to the front desk of Delta Airlines. I'm like, fuck that shit. I'm not going to do that, right? They're like, Ben Wertofsky, please report to this. I'm like, fuck that shit. I get on the plane, lands in JFK. Everybody's about to get off. 6 guys in suits get on. They're like, everybody, please sit down. We're looking for a Ben Wertofsky. Please identify yourself. I'm like, fuck that shit, right? They're like, Ben Wertofsky, we know you're on this plane. We have a flight manifest with your name on it. We have a general description. We're going to go row by row until we find you. It's going to go better for you if you identify yourself right now. People are looking around. So I'm like, oh, Ben Wertofsky, I had a headphone in my ear. So they take me to this back room and they start interrogating me. They're like, where did you get this ticket? I'm like, from a man named Horse. They're like, a man named Horse? He's like, what are you, a comedian? I'm like, actually... So while this is going on, they're going through my stuff. So the guy's got my passport. He's like, so you're Ben Wertofsky, you're DC Benny. The other guy unrolls the poster. He's like, are you Muhammad? And what are you going to blow up, right? So I'm like, now. So I get on a do not fly list for a year because of this shit, right? I get on a I got to do local gigs every. I'm like, I'm never gonna do the Great Habibi again. Well, a year ago, a little bit more, I get a tour in Israel, right? And I'm like, this will be awesome. I've never been. It's 8 days, whatever. I don't speak Hebrew, but I make it up. I take English and add and it's the same thing. Hello, it's kind of hot, So I'm there, and the shows are great. It's like every night we're in a different place, every night, yidle deedle diddle, yidle deedle diddle, crushing it, The last night, we're in Tel Aviv. We're performing there. It's been advertised everywhere. It's a big deal. There's posters, the American comedian, And that day, Trump announces that he is moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which is a big fucking deal. I had no idea. It's a big deal. So the whole place, it's like all American personnel, get the fuck out of Israel. Right? Take your ch and get the ch on out. Get the ch and the ch on out. Take your hummus and bichunde, shawarma, so. And so the mood is very tense. But the show's great that night. The next day, fly out. But there's a 4-hour layover in Istanbul, right? And I don't know if you guys have been in that airport, but that airport is like it's like something from an Indiana Jones movie. I mean, it's the dude with the little hat with the fez thing, and he's got the monkey, and then it's like one tooth and the whole airport being passed around to chew stuff, And they're burning Trump in effigy, like there's a whole, like it's just like not a good time to be there, right? So I'm trying to keep a very low profile, but these 4 guys keep following me around, right? And everybody got like half a soccer outfit, and they keep following me around. So I'm trying to lose these guys, so I end up hiding in the bathroom, getting up on top of the toilet in the stall, like you did in 4th grade when you were gonna get your ass beat. And I'm hiding in there, and I'm like, all right, I lost them. I get out of the stall. I go to leave. They're blocking the door. I'm like, no. And one of the guys comes up to me. He's like, you are American? Yes. You are American. I was like, no, I am a great Habibi, right? That guy looked at me. He's like, I know. I buy your album 15 years ago. So I signed a shawarma wrapper. It was awesome.